Today is Monday the 4th. We have a moderately busy day today. I'm running up to a plant nursery to pick up hydrangeas to complete the job we were working on last week. I'm going to then meet Keller and Kev for some irrigation work. There's some heads that are low in the ground at a property, like 15 of them or so. They're 4-inch pop-ups, so we're going to convert those to 6 inches so that they get good coverage. So we'll check that out. And Hunter's spraying as usual, and then I'll have some running around to go about to do today as well. It's a pretty day. It's unseasonably cool for August. I think it's like 73 this morning. Really nice weather. It rained a ton last night for like an hour. It was a really weird sunrise this morning where it was all blacked out to the east of us. Tons of clouds and whatnot, super dark, and then even to the south of us. And then the west of us, which is this way, kind of which way you're looking, was I guess the sun was somehow coming over the tops of those clouds, so it was almost like a western sunrise. So all the buildings when I was driving in looked really strange and kind of different. It reminded me up the alley of the eclipse from, I guess that would have been 2023. Not as crazy, but still just kind of vivid colors. Like I said, I don't know. It was strange, but cool to start the week with that. So either way, we'll crank through today. Stop in a couple times to kind of see what's going on and see what we can get into. We're here working on this irrigation project. So this is something that kind of becomes common, especially in our area, is combination of a few things. So essentially, as the grass grows taller, especially with St. Augustine, which needs to be cut tall, ideally it's cut 3.5 to 4 inches tall. So as it grows taller, it starts blocking the irrigation head. Additionally, with a new build like this house was probably in the last 8 years or so, the heads start sinking, so they kind of meet in the middle, and then all of a sudden the grass starts blocking the heads from spinning or from throwing water appropriately, and then you start getting dry spots. So this person coincidentally bought this house, I think, in the last month or so, and they said that the drought symptoms were starting to show, which would be expected. And so with this situation, so either way, we popped on the irrigation zones, and we found, at least out here in the front, I think we have 19 flags throughout here of heads that need to be raised that are getting blocked. You can see this guy here, and then like in worst cases, something like this. So it is something where keeping a close eye on your irrigation and making sure that your heads aren't settling is always a good idea. Secondly, this is a situation where, like this guy out here in the center, if it was watering really heavily, you might see some, or if it didn't rain a lot at all, you might see the areas on the outside of what should be the perimeter of it turning dry, kind of like maybe through this section, and maybe right here it would stay extremely green from the extra watering within that first 3.5 to 4 foot radius of the head. So either way, we're getting all these straightened out. What we're doing is we're swapping all of these heads that are flagged from 4-inch pop-ups to 6-inch pop-ups, and then also setting them at the soil level. So in theory, the fact that the head's set at soil level, we should have 6 inches above soil that the nozzle is at. Therefore, even if the grass is 5 inches tall, there shouldn't be any interference. This is, like I said, pretty standard stuff to see, at least in our region, and certainly towards that July, August, maybe early September period, you can definitely start seeing some pretty nasty circles from drought symptoms and whatnot. We'll come back by here later this afternoon to get a treatment on it. There's coincidentally actually chinch bug activity, and we'll talk about that once we get there. All right, back where we started this morning, checking in on this irrigation. We fixed one quick fix to here, get this all lined up properly. It's looking pretty good. So going back across here, as a recap, we had swapped these a good chunk of these from 4-inch pop-ups to 6-inch pop-ups. You can kind of see here where this black guy here has popped up pretty high above the canopy, whereas previously it was getting blocked. So that transition from 4 inches to 6 inches makes a huge difference. The sprinkler heads are kind of set, you can see that, are kind of set there flush with the concrete height. And then, like I said, even if this grass doesn't get mowed for 2 or 3 weeks, we'll still have coverage above the canopy. This is an easy swap out to make. It's a pretty common issue, and hopefully in terms of spaces throughout the lawn that look like it has poor coverage, this should shore that up for the client, and they should be smooth sailing the rest of the summer. We also actually just applied a chinch bug control treatment. It had a contact insecticide as well as a systemic insecticide, so hopefully we can keep that in bay. Coincidentally, last year I have a client down the street. I saw chinch bug activity just from driving by. I kind of was able to see the conditions and found some out here close to the street without walking onto the property. Knocked the door, guy answered, and he told me it's not a big deal. So either way, this person ended up buying his house pure coincidentally and reached out about the yard not looking good, so kind of a full circle moment. This area, in this space here and kind of through here, if I don't know how well you can see that, I found some chinch bugs in here last week, so we went ahead and made a treatment there, and then we'll start treating preventatively in the future. Caught these super early. The symptoms are fairly muted, not a big deal at all. But yeah, other than that, the irrigation should be all buttoned up in a much better place moving forward, and hopefully the client can see the change and doesn't have to worry about that. About to get a little evening mow in. Point out a few things that I'm struggling with. These spots right here are from dog urine that seems to never go away. I watched them do this one recently, and I think later in the day, the worse it is. The sunlight's kind of making it worse, but this guy right here, this was from maybe in the winter time. Either way, it's finally kind of filling in. This was from urine earlier in the summer. This back here, the brick edge is where I wanted the grass to sit flush with the brick edge. So I put a ton of sand in through here back in the spring, so it's just now kind of finally pushing through. It just takes a while. Not overly worried about that. Over here, there's not a good place to store these chairs, so they end up sitting here, creating these spots, sitting there, blocking those. They're really heavy, so it's kind of cumbersome to move them around a bunch of times. I cleaned these bricks off over the weekend. You can see here the difference. There's like a little mortar sheen on them, and I used hydrochloric acid, and it ate that stuff off pretty well. So I just need to continue that and hopefully clean them up. But either way, at this point in the year, I have this Tiff Tough Bermuda. It's currently regulated with trinexapac ethyl, also called Primo, at 0.25 ounces per 1,000 square feet, and I'm hitting it, I don't know, once every 3 weeks, something like that. And then I end up throwing in maybe 2/5 of a pound of nitrogen at the same time. I do a terrible job about maintaining edges, so those are just kind of mohawks growing up. I've found that when I use a weed eater, it really scalps the heck out of it, and then it just doesn't grow back at all, but it's ugly. So in theory, I need to come through here with some scissors or something. Similarly here, it's just a maintenance issue, and that's part of the reason I kept this. I'm raising this up because this same issue here used to be back here, but because the sand's a lot higher now, it's not nearly as bad. So either way, that's about that. So we'll get it mowed down, and then I think tomorrow I'm probably due for a PGR app. So we'll hit that and we'll keep it down. At this point, I'm really only mowing it once every 7 days. Mowing height, I'm not sure off the top of my head. I would guess half an inch, 3/4 of an inch, 3/4 of an inch, somewhere in there. That's definitely higher than half an inch. We'll call it 3/4 of an inch. I'm not trying to get too crazy with it, just want it nice and uniform. And we like the way it looks. So either way, we'll crank out a time lapse and see what it looks like.